Ahead of one of the biggest golf tournaments of the year, world number one, Scottie Scheffler, had some pretty profound things to say about his success. He says this is not a fulfilling life. It's fulfilling from the sense of accomplishment, but it's not fulfilling from a sense of the deepest places of your heart. He elaborated even further, reflecting on the fleeting nature of winning. It feels like you work your whole life to celebrate winning a tournament for like a few minutes. It only lasts a few minutes, that kind of euphoric feeling. Scheffler also emphasized that his true fulfillment came from somewhere else. He says, I'm blessed to be able to come out here and play golf, but if my golf ever started affecting my home life, or it ever affected the relationship I have with my wife or my son, that's going to be the last day that I play out here for a living. That was a profound, profound statement that went absolutely viral. And it did because I think many of us can relate to the fact that you can get to the top step of the podium as an athlete. You can achieve the seven-figure business as an entrepreneur, and it can still feel like you are empty. Or maybe not that bad. Maybe it just feels like you have achieved everything you've ever dreamed of professionally, and yet you still feel like there's something missing. There's something more to go. In this episode, in this video today, I want to help you understand why success doesn't fix the emotional weight that you may be carrying. I also want to show you and share with you what I believe is really driving the burden that you have. And finally, I want to show you how to stop carrying it alone and reclaim the true freedom of why I believe you got in business to begin with, because I know that's why I got into the business that I did. Men of greatness, rise and stand tall. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Unlocking Greatness. I'm pumped to be able to encourage and to help Christian entrepreneurs drive forward in the path that God has led them on, ultimately to achieve the greatness that He has created them for. That's why I'm here, and I hope that that's why you're here as well today. So let's dig right in and let's talk a little bit about why success often does not satisfy in the ways that we think it will. We have this false belief, that if we just achieve a certain income level, if we just drive a certain amount of revenue to our business, that we can finally rest, that we can finally be secure. I'm not sure about you, but I've been in business for 14 years. And let me tell you something, I have had a lot of goal changes. I have had a lot of success metrics that have continued to increase over time. And I'm not saying any of those things are bad or wrong. Obviously, it's gotten more expensive to live over the last 14 years. We want to continue to grow as we grow. We want to see our business impact more people. We want to enjoy more things. And so I'm not saying any of those things is wrong. But why is it that when we see the finish line, we commit to the race, we see the finish line, and we cross it? Why is it that, like Scheffler says, we feel minutes of euphoria, and then all of a sudden, it feels like the pressure's just back on? It feels like that weight that I was carrying, it's just right back. Maybe the emptiness that I felt inside that I thought crossing the finish line was going to give me, I thought it was going to fill me up, and instead it was right back. Well, it's because as we continue to grow our businesses, as we continue to achieve more, pressure increases. It requires a lot more responsibility oftentimes to make $1 million than it does to make $100,000. And I'm sure, never been there, it requires a lot more pressure and stress to earn or to generate 10 million in revenue as it does to generate $1 million in revenue. And yes, we can get more efficient, more productive, we can hire more team members. but it doesn't mean that the pressure doesn't increase. Second, we set out to run the race. We create a finish line. We cross that finish line. And then what happens? The freaking finish line moves. We move it. We commit to running a 5K, crush it. 10K, crush it. Marathon, crush it. Ultra marathon, crush it. 100-mile death race, crush it. Whatever it is, the finish line just continues to move. We don't get a chance to enjoy the finish line we just crossed because all of a sudden there's a new one. Additionally, emotional detachment persists. The thing that we thought was going to more deeply fulfill our desires, the things that were just heaviest on our heart, don't seem to be there. And as a matter of fact, sometimes we can find when we achieve success that we get farther away, that we get more distance between ourselves and that thing that we were trying to solve for. And I think ultimately the reason why success doesn't satisfy is because we've built scoreboards, but not foundations. We're running forward, but the thing that we started running from, the thing that we were standing on as we began is just empty, fleeting, soft, weak, fragile. We don't have a strong foundation. And without a strong foundation, eventually it will all come crumbling down. It will be shaky. It will be weak. That could be our business. That could be an actual physical structure. That could be ourselves. So I'm sure you've been to a point in your career. Maybe you are right now where you felt like, man, I made it. I did everything I intended to do. And I don't feel that much better. Like I felt good for a period of time. I felt pretty happy with what I accomplished. I love to be celebrated. I love to be bragged on, but I just don't feel what I thought I was going to feel. I just, I didn't get that sense that I thought I was going to get, that success I wanted. It just didn't satisfy me in the way that I was hoping it was going to. And I believe that a big part of the reason that is the case is because there is a hidden weight. There is a hidden weight that we are bearing, that we have kind of believed that if we just achieve the success, it will start to disappear, but it never really goes away. Sometimes the more success we achieve, the more isolated we become. We don't have any real strong peers around us. We've unfortunately began to distance ourselves from those closest to us, our family and our friends. And on top of that, when we are living in a performance-based validation, we have isolated ourselves from the reality of everything else that will truly fulfill us. Because our worth, our value, our hopes, our dreams is just tied to more and more and more. We're just isolated from everything. We're on this island and we don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't know how to fix or fill ourselves. This is why you often see successful people end up finding their way into very destructive behaviors. That, some people will say that success drives destruction. I don't think that's the case. I think that success further exposes the destructive behaviors that are already inside of us. If you have addictive personality issues and you achieve more success, you've just given yourself more means in which to be addicted to things. You can spend more money on it. You need to medicate yourself more because of the stress and frustration around it. Like it creates far more problems. When you're more successful, you have less time for those that truly fulfill you, your family, your friends. You're a stranger in your own home. All of these things become extremely dangerous as we achieve more and more. We just become further removed from the life we were created to live. You may have been created to live a successful life, but if the foundation is broken, shaky, fragile, you will not be able to live the life that you were created to live, whether you have success or not. One of the other things that I think shows up often is unhealed wounds. So the more that we achieve, I think that the more we are exposed to the wounds that are still living inside of us. This is very much what I wrote my book about: wounds, how hurt, heartache, and tragedy become the keys to unlocking greatness. And one of those wounds, if you've read my book, you will recall one of the wounds that is a thread that pulls through my entire story is the father wound. It was the wound that I had that I didn't even really realize was as prevalent, was as powerful as it was until I was much older. My parents divorced when I was 6, but things like an addiction to approval. I needed to be validated. I needed to feel approval from as many people as humanly possible because I was trying to heal that wound when my dad left and I felt like I was not approved by my dad, that I was not fully accepted by my dad. In addition to that, when you don't feel that sense of acceptance, when you haven't had a healthy relationship with your father, this can be present in other wounds as well, but specifically the father wound. When this happens, we begin to overcompensate. I wanted to be bigger and better. I lived by this stupid saying for the longest period of time: go big or go home. It was really like, if I was going to do anything, I was going to do it bigger than anybody else. And you may say to yourself, well, you should want to be the best, and so do it better than anybody else. And it's like, yes, in certain sane, responsible ways. But the problem was to overcompensate for the struggles that I was feeling, especially as I began to achieve success early on in my life. I started to overcompensate by over enjoying, by overindulging, by over pursuing. And that was everything from drugs and alcohol to gambling to women, just so many things. It was so destructive. And it was all the result of this hidden weight that I was feeling. And it got worse the more success I achieved. And it was ironic because I thought the success would fill it, but it actually made it heavier. And I think that because there was this inner battle that I was facing as I was recognized that it wasn't working when I achieved the success. And yet I wanted it to work. So I figured that if I just achieve more, that I would get it. It's crazy psychologically how that works itself out, but it happens so often, particularly with men that had troubled, challenged, fractured relationships with their father growing up. The other thing is, when you have an unhealed wound that is that deep, that is that big, something like a father wound, you will start to see more and more emotional detachment from home, from your wife, from your kids. Maybe part of that is because you don't know how to behave, you don't know how to relate, but also because the more that you're chasing with this weak foundation, with this unhealed wound inside of you, the more focused you get on trying to solve it by achieving more, by climbing a bigger mountain, by running a longer race, by making more money. When again, in all reality, none of those things are going to heal. They are going to wreck you. They are going to exhaust you. Look at, you are not tired from work. If you are a high achiever, it's not because you're working too much that's you're tired, or the reason that you're tired. The reason why you're tired is because you're tired of pretending that you have it all together, that you're unbreakable, that nothing is going to stop you from getting everything you've ever wanted. Let me let you in on a little secret. You are preventing you from getting everything you've ever wanted. And it's not a mind over matter thing, meaning all you have to do is put your mind to going bigger and harder and grinding it out. What you need to do is putting your mind to the reality that you have some deep, deep centered struggles that you need to address and heal from in order to go bigger in your business, bigger in your life, and achieve everything that you've ever dreamed of. Which brings me to this myth of self-made. It's so fascinating to me how particularly male entrepreneurs, they like wave this banner of I made it myself. I got it. I'm a badass because I did it alone. I didn't need anybody else. Screw everybody else. And sometimes it's because you were burned in the past by a parent or somebody else. Other times it's just because you just want to prove to everybody else that you don't need anybody, that you can do it. As a matter of fact, a now past friend of mine. We are not friends now. This was his life. He had a horrific father wound. His father was an absolute jerk off and treated him poorly. As hard as my friend worked, he worked in the family business. As hard as my friend worked, his dad never gave him the credit that was due. His dad promised to help guide him into a position of leadership in the business. And every time he would get close, his dad would just reset the bar. His dad would just tear him down a little bit. It got so bad that finally my friend was like, you know what? I just need to go do this myself because I will never fully be able to be me and succeed the way that I've deserved and I earn underneath my father. And his father looked him in the face and said to him, you will be nothing without me. You will never succeed without me. Man, I was pissed off for my friend when I heard this. And so my friend set off on his own to go out and build his own business. And it started off incredibly. I mean, man, God was blessing him. He was honoring the Lord in the work that he was doing. I was so proud of him. But the one thing that I was trying to give him advice around was if you are doing this from a place of revenge to prove to your dad and everybody else that you can do it and don't need anybody else, eventually you are going to turn into the person you despise the most, which is your father. And it is heartbreaking. And this is part of the reason why we are no longer friends, is because he became his dad. As a matter of fact, he's probably become an even more destructive version of his dad because he had so much to prove that he began to isolate further and further and further. He didn't really want to listen to what anybody else had to say. He was going to prove to everybody that he could do it. He was going to prove to his dad that he could do it. And damn it if he didn't. But as soon as he started to prove that he could do it without his dad, he started to turn into him. And it became destructive. And little by little, he started to destroy personal relationships. He started to wreck family relationships. He just became something that he despised. This was the lie of I can do it on my own. I can prove to everybody else that I don't need them. This is the lie. This is the myth that I don't need accountability, that I don't need brotherhood. You see, he started out believing he did, but before long, he didn't need anybody. Well, that's what he said. And he would have people there, but he wouldn't fully accept what they were saying, especially when correction came. He would turn things on people. Instead of it being something he did wrong, he would just point out something else that they did wrong, even if it didn't involve him. He started off on this journey being so vulnerable about what hurt him, where he was struggling. But as time went on, he became less and less vulnerable. And instead of becoming more open and honest about what was going on, he just became more and more narrowly focused on the prize, the success, and the finish line got bigger, and the animal grew more dangerous, and it all just started to explode. You see, when I talk about the GAP framework, you've heard me talk about this before: grounded in faith, authentic in action, purposeful in pursuit. This authentic action thing becomes incredibly valuable. Again, I talked about being grounded in faith and the fact that, like, if we don't have a strong foundation, we're dead in the water, dead to rights to begin with. Eventually it will come unglued. But what's interesting is if we're on a shaky foundation, and if our pursuit is not on purpose for God, as God created us to, but it's on purpose for ourselves, then what happens is that middle spot, that authentic in action, becomes exceptionally hard to follow. We start to become the man that we are not, and that is inauthentic. And I try to challenge men in this spot to stop hiding and start healing. This doesn't mean you have to stop pursuing success. It just means you have to heal as you do. And you cannot use success as the thing that will heal you, because it wasn't the thing that destroyed you. It's just become salt in the wound that's already there. The very thing that you could be enjoying is the thing that's actually crushing you. But there is a path. There is a path forward to this that more men need to recognize for themselves, and they have a hard time doing it. I mean, the whole reason that most of us get into business, that why we dreamed of becoming an entrepreneur, why we wanted to be in complete control, why we wanted to be autonomous, the reason why we did all these things in the first place was because we saw an opportunity for freedom, and we took the risk to get it. We sought to finally fully become the man that we were created to be, to do the things that we were created to do, to run the business that God had called us to in the ways that God had called us to. That's why I got into business. I mean, I've shared before, I'm not going to get into this, but like, I was laid off from a job that I thought I was untouchable in, and there's a whole story behind that. But when I finally called my wife, I was out looking for a job. I got an incredible offer, really good money, actually better money than I was making before I got laid off, with some good upward potential, big organization. And I called my wife, and she said, "Did you get it?" And I said, "Well, I was offered the job, but I don't want to take it." And she was like, "What? You got all this financial responsibility. You got 2 kids. You need to work. You need to make money." She didn't actually say any of that, but she did say, "What?" And I said, "I think I've realized that I'm ready to do this myself, that I want to sell to clients and serve clients the way that I want to. I want my schedule. I want to spend time with my family when I want to spend time with my family, go on vacation when I want to go on vacation. I want to enjoy my life, not work to someday enjoy a pretend retirement that never really comes for most people." That's the path to true peace. That's the path to freedom. That's why, if we're just pursuing more money for the sake of more money, we will continue to carry the same weight. If not, we're actually going to carry even more. 7 figures, 8 figures. It will never feel better if you don't feel better where you are at. I'm not saying that more income can't help a lot of the challenges you're facing, but those won't heal the inner things that you're challenged with. The path to peace looks like this: freedom first. It's a way of being, not a number. And again, the path to peace includes being grounded in faith. Your identity must never be tied to income. Your identity must never be tied to production. Your identity must never be tied to impact. That can be part of your purpose, but that is not your identity. Your identity as a Christian man is that you are a child of God, that participated in the great exchange by the grace of God. The Father sent the Son to die on your behalf, took your place, You were set for eternal damnation, and instead, you have been set for eternal glory because of what Christ did for you and what Christ did for me. That's our foundation. That's our rock. That is steady, and that will never be broken. The path to peace, real freedom, looks like being authentic in action. We should be able to be honest about who we are and where we are at all times. Don't be afraid to share the struggle. I was on the phone with a very well-known a man of influence in one of the industries I serve in. I spoke with him recently from stage, and he said, "Man, I wish you could do what you do." He said, "I love the fact that you are so honest and vulnerable about who you are, where you've come from, and even the things you're struggling with now." And I was so honored that he said that I just accepted it. But what I wanted to say to him is you can do that too. But you see, we build these personas that cause us to be inauthentic. And that's not how God would have it for us. The path to peace, real freedom, looks like being purposeful in pursuit. If we are going to pursue success, which I am all for, build the biggest dang business that God will ever bless you with. Just make sure that you do so with alignment and with peace, a peace that surpasses all understanding, trusting that Christ will ultimately fulfill and provide for your every need, meaning that you can go out and be fully aligned to the man that he calls you to be in the professional world. There's no sacred and secular. All things are sacred if you are a child of God. Go out and be that man. Be bold in who God has created you to be, and trust in the fact that as you are, he will bring you the people you need to build that business that you dream of. And finally, the path to peace, what freedom really looks like, requires personal reflection. When I started finally letting people in, helping me to understand who I was when I truly was able to unlock everything that was inside of me. I have a hard time sometimes seeing myself for who I really am. I've gotten much, much better at it. But there's nothing better than an objective outside voice to speak into what they see. It's so beneficial and it's so helpful. And that ultimately gives me so much freedom when I can just be honest about where I'm at, and I can allow other people to help me learn and grow from that. So what can you do? What can you do to stop bearing the weight, though you continue to be more and more successful? Well, you can start by asking yourself this question. Ask yourself, what am I still trying to prove? And who am I trying to prove it to? I encourage you to take 10 minutes this week. Take that question to the Lord first and ask God to show you what you are still trying to prove and who you are trying to prove it to. Then I challenge you to journal that. Write down what you are still trying to prove and who you are trying to prove it to. And finally, I challenge you to bring it to a brother and share with them what you are trying to prove and who you are trying to prove it to. Between praying to the Lord, writing it down for yourself, and bringing it to a close brother, I am confident that if you are fully committed to achieving the greatness that God created you for, that this practice will begin a new journey for you in which you can achieve that 6, 7, 8, 9-figure business that you dream of as an elite entrepreneur, but that you will do so as the man of greatness that God has created you to be. You guys, this is the stuff. You want the hacks, you want the big, massive unlocks. It starts here. It starts with an opportunity to like this, to look inside of yourself and say, what am I trying to prove and who am I trying to prove it to? I want freedom. I want an incredible life. And I don't want the things holding me back to continue to hold me back. And I know that starts with me. Share this with a buddy. Allow them into you and then pour into them. Because I'm sure you've got a friend out there that's struggling just like this. Forward them this video, forward them this podcast, shoot them a text and say, hey, I listened to this. It hit me right between the eyes and it made me really consider some things that I've been pursuing, some ways that I've been acting that I just don't think are ultimately helping me. I think I've figured out why I continue to achieve success and I still don't feel that sense of fulfillment that I desire. Maybe you do too, and just share it with them and see what happens. And if you do this, in the next video, in our next episode, I'm going to be showing you how to scale without losing your soul. If we're going to relay the foundation, if we're going to ensure that we have something strong to stand on, then we should figure out how to start scaling our life and our business without losing the things that we've worked so hard to lay in the first place. So if you're pumped for that, like, share, and subscribe here. Make sure that you are following along on this journey as we pursue the man of greatness that God has called us to. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your guys' support. Can't wait to share with you next week.